Today is February 8th, 2022. Jacob is about to go on the air on 106.5 The End to talk about Ben's story. Well, actually, this is a repeat. It aired yesterday, but yeah, still pretty cool.
This show is a family.
Mm-hmm.
We have gone through many things together in our lives, and we are closer than a lot of other, morning radio shows are. We've gone through births, we've gone through weddings, we've gone through graduations, and unfortunately, we've gone through deaths.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a death in the Wake Up Call family, and it is producer Jacob's brother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
His name was Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us a little bit about what happened to your brother Ben.
Yeah, so when my parents were 26, they gave birth to him, and he never learned how to walk or talk. He ended up having a condition that was cerebral palsy. So imagine a baby who, gets to that stage before crawling, but he never got past that. He grew into an old man. He became 34, and he still was restricted to being on the floor, not being able to communicate. He can only really cry or scream, or he was totally restricted in 100 ways.
Yeah. Now, he had a number of different medical issues throughout the years,
Mm-hmm.
but then he needed a surgery to alleviate some pressure and pain in his legs.
So, and if you're just tuning in now, we're telling the story of Jacob's older brother who passed away last week.
Mm-hmm.
He gets the surgery,
Mm-hmm.
and then what happens after that?
He experienced some complications in the post-surgery
Realm.
the realm of getting better, the recoup. And the doctor was telling us that even if he survives this current state, it's going to be a year of having a breathing tube in his mouth, and maybe his legs will get better. And so
a decision was made. You guys made the decision to do, compassionate care.
yeah.
And you let him drift off.
Yeah, that was and let me tell you, from my experience, this is where things start to become very interesting in my world. Because after this starts to become a decision, my mom calls me and tells me, Jacob, we don't know if Ben's gonna make it through the night, everything's horrible. He just aspirated. He's gasping like a fish for air.
God.
And if you could come to the hospital, that'd be great, but you have to call Aaron, you have to call Brandon, Allison, Katrina.
Your other siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And tell them that your brother's dying.
Yeah.
I'm not making this about me, but when my daughter Phoebe died, making those phone calls was the absolute worst.
Dude, it's pretty bad.
It was
horrible.
And it was for us too, because my daughter Phoebe passed away a week past her due date.
When you called, everybody answered the phone. Is she here?
Every single person that I called was excited to hear from me.
Wow.
And all thought I was calling to say she was born. And I did say but calling loved ones to tell them that somebody that they love is dead
or dying.
Is such a difficult thing to do.
So did you call all of your siblings?
Yeah,
Okay.
My sister got the heads up because my dad apparently got a call from my mom as well, and he bolted out the door. And so, having been in the hospital, my sisters knew something was up. So when I called them, they kind of understood and said, we're on the way.
Right.
My older brother, Aaron, he didn't even know Ben was in the hospital. He moved out a couple months ago, so we didn't even update him when he went in there to get back surgery.
Because it's just been so chaotic.
It's been chaotic, and we thought he'd be up to speed, but I had to be the one that said, yeah, he's in the hospital.
He's
back
not
surgery.
only in the hospital, he's had back surgery,
Yep.
and he might not make it.
And he might not make it.
Oh my gosh.
And so if you want to see him, you got to head to the hospital now.
So tell us about, because I have always believed that there is always light and humor in everything, and the moment you found out that your brother Ben passed away, tell us that what happened there.
Yeah, okay. Well, I would like to say that it's really nice to be back on the show because, this is the most I've laughed in a really long time.
Oh, God.
But yeah, this whole moment was the most Jacob moment that could have happened in my family. And it's dark, but it makes me crack up.
Okay.
So in this hospital, I've heard that people are telling me that when you have somebody on life support, when somebody is getting ready to pass, the moment you pull their family away from them, they go. You will take a walk outside for a quick moment, walk to the bathroom.
They'll take a turn for the worse.
And in that short amount of span, they will pass.
Yeah.
And, my family was no different. We started experiencing that exact same thing. It started becoming a routine. One of us would leave to go to the bathroom and we'd get an emergency call on the phone. His vitals are dropping. You got to sprint back here. So we'd sprint back and he'd be fine. Everything would be balanced. So, this part's not funny, but my family was in that room for over 22 hours, and we're over there taking turns holding his hand. And after a while, it gets to this awkward point where it's like, we're all hungry, we're all sleeping on the floor and we're beat. We need food. You will never guess the only food in that entire cafeteria was a wasabi sandwich.
Wasabi?
Wasabi beef.
Okay.
So that was the only food there. So after being there for 22 hours, that's the only option we get to look at. And so, my dad and I keep walking down to the cafeteria to stare at it and see if it looks any more appetizing. And then we get more calls. Ben's, he's fluctuating. Run back up here. So when we go back up there, he's fine. And I watch my dad break down, okay?
Oh.
He's so hungry. His son is in this hospital bed. And I thought I'd be doing the family a favor. And I go, you know what? I'm going to go to McDonald's.
Okay.
So I jump out of that hospital, get into my car, drive over there, get $60 worth of food. Like, I get Big Macs, McChickens, more food than anybody can really eat.
You get a Kevin-sized McDonald's meal.
Absolutely. And I head back to the hospital and hook up security, hit up the elevator.
Nice. That was nice.
Yeah, there's people in there. I'm like, yeah, you guys want some fries? Look at all this food I bought. This is just so fun. And I go into to Ben's hospital room, kick open the door, and there's my family sitting there still, and they're just around Ben. And I see Brandon, and I'm like, hey, here's some Big Macs. This is for you. And Mom, here's your Coke. And Katrina, here's some chicken nuggets. And I look over to my left, and I'm just like, why are all of Ben's numbers 0?
On his monitor.
On his monitor. And in that time that I left, he passed away. And my family didn't know I left McDonald's. They all thought I was in that room because the moment
There's
I
so
left,
many of you, yeah.
the moment I left, he went. And so here I come 15, 20 minutes later.
Making a scene.
Kicking open that door like it's Christmas morning, delivering
like
cheeseburgers.
You're Ronald himself.
I just gave out cheeseburgers.
And that was the moment you found out that your brother passed away.
Yeah, it was rough because, it was also funny, looking around and seeing everybody's jaw drop and just not understanding. And
it was very Jacob. It was a very Jacob.
While you're jovially tossing out cheeseburgers to the room, they're all fresh in their grief.
They're all fresh in their grief. Can I wrap this up, though? So there I was, oh my gosh, my brother Ben just passed away. Here I am in this room. Somber moment. And
Sure.
My dad walks over to Ben and he says he doesn't need this anymore. And he grabs his oxygen mask and he pulls that off his face and he has like this thing in his nose to help him breathe. And my dad pulls that out.
Oh, I think that's that's actually getting nutrients into their system. It's called an NG.
Oh, he had one of those.
Yeah.
My dad pulls it out and then we all just kind of stand back, and my family saw the most amazing thing we have ever seen in our lives. It was so incredible, took our breath away. But in that moment where Ben lied there, and he was full of peace, it was the first time my family has ever seen him without cerebral palsy.
cerebral palsy, it makes, your muscles tense. So
Yeah.
so his jaw was always clenched or
Yeah, or sometimes he'd have like his tongue stick out.
you're right.
But it was the first time, I mean, they said that, if they ever wanted to see him without it, they would have to dose him up so much, like he wouldn't be himself. But the moment he passed, his face just became so relaxed. And I have to tell you, it was the best blessing from my mom, because he became handsome. Like out of nowhere, he just morphed into this handsome man. And like his chin was perfect and his skin was perfect and his hairline, I was so jealous. I couldn't believe it. But
He was gorgeous.
he was gorgeous. I would describe him as like a Robert Pattinson, but maybe a step above him.
Wow.
Yeah, he very good looking, and it was almost a miracle.
Yeah.
Like
Like a parting gift to your parents.
it was almost like in Pinocchio. Like I was watching him become a real boy for the first time. And it was rough, but I'd say that it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen.
Wow.
You got to see him free of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
How is everybody in the family doing? How are your parents?
My parents are confused, they've been taking care of him every day since he was born.
I was thinking about that part of it where there's probably going to be this huge culture shock for them of not needing to give him around the clock care. And so now,
Absolutely.
like, what does your mom do with her time?
Right now, my mom is just planning on putting up a service for him,
Yeah.
and she's spending her time that way. We've been looking at all my baby photos with him and all that
Oh.
stuff. So it's been a rough week just kind of looking at all that stuff. But
Yeah.
they have a lot of free time now. Ben, as he grew up, my parents could never really go on vacation.
Right.
Occasionally, we would look at a place where they'd take care of people with special needs, and we would have Ben go there, but he would come back with bruises. He would come back with horrible cares. So my parents and I have kind of been talking about, like, maybe now that they're free, they can maybe give opportunities to other families with special needs
my
to go
God,
on
that's
vacation, because
beautiful.
they're really good advocates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, as somebody who's steeped in grief,
Yeah.
grief is a complicated thing, man. It's going to take you to some weird places, and it's going to actually take you to some wonderful places too. So, whatever you need, like I said when we started, we are a family at the Wake Up Call, and, whatever you need, we got your back.
100%.
Thank you for sharing the story of your brother, Ben, who passed away last week.
Absolutely. And then, I just want to just end this by saying, his whole life he was handicapped, and he was never able to communicate to any of us. And there were people who would say messed up things or think things like, oh, he's just laying there, like, you don't need to say Merry Christmas to him. You don't need to really, like, be there for him just because he's handicapped. But there was, like, just being in that hospital room and watching his vitals move to me holding his hand and being with him. It's just like, he was a dude who couldn't play basketball, but he loved us. And if you know somebody that, I don't know, that is in your family that I don't know, hug him, love him.
Yeah.
I guess that's just how I want to end this.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Thanks.
We love you, Jacob.
I love you
So much.
It's the Wake Up Call.
The Odyssey app. Listen to and favorite 106.5 The End, plus hundreds of exclusive stations like Black Voices and Inspiration, Odyssey's Black History Month tribute with Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye West, and more. Search Black Voices and Inspiration on the Odyssey app to listen.
Hey, it's Kevin from the Wake Up Call, and here's today's podcast you should know. It's the Pod Sauce Minute.
What's up, everyone? I am Alicia Renee.
Wow. So yeah, we just listened to Jacob on the radio talking about Ben. Pretty amazing. At least his story is getting out there during this time, and I feel good about it, at least. So bring awareness to the issue, cerebral palsy, and what people have to go through, and all that. Anyways, pretty cool.